They didn't just leave their tent, they cut their way out. And then they ran into a freezing storm. No boots, no proper clothing, no survival plan. Just panic. Now think about that for a second. You are in the middle of nowhere. The temperature is dropping below -30. Your only protection is behind you, and you choose to leave it. Not walk out. Not step out. You tear your way out. That's not a mistake. That's fear. The kind of fear that overrides logic. The kind of fear that makes trained people act like something is terribly wrong. Because these weren't amateurs. These were experienced hikers. Disciplined. Calculated. People who understood survival better than most. And yet, within hours, every single one of them was dead. Some frozen, some crushed from the inside. One missing her tongue. No clear signs of a fight. No confirmed attacker. No single explanation that fully fits. For over 60 years, this case has remained open in one way or another. Not because there are no answers, but because none of them feel complete. Because something is missing. The moment, the trigger, the reason they ran. I am the Archivist, and tonight, we are opening one of the most unsettling case studies in modern history. The Dyatlov Pass incident. January 1959, deep inside the Soviet Union. A group of hikers prepared for an expedition into the northern Ural Mountains. This wasn't a casual trip. This was a certified winter expedition. The goal was ambitious: cross a remote and dangerous region, and reach a mountain called Otorten, a place known for harsh conditions, unpredictable weather, and zero margin for error. Leading the group was Igor Dyatlov. Young, sharp, highly respected among his peers. Each member of the team had experience. Some had already completed long-distance winter treks. They understood cold exposure. They understood terrain. They understood risk. This matters, because what happens later should not happen to people like this. The group documented everything. They kept journals. They took photographs. They recorded their journey with precision. Early entries show something interesting: normalcy, laughter, jokes, moments of playfulness. At one point, one of the hikers fell ill. He decided to turn back. That decision saved his life. Because the remaining 9 would never return, as the group moved deeper into the mountains. The conditions began to shift. Wind speeds increased. Temperatures dropped further. Visibility became unstable. Navigation became harder. At some point, they lost their intended route, and instead of correcting it immediately, they chose to continue forward. Eventually, they reached a slope on a mountain called Kolet Cycle. The name translates roughly to Dead Mountain. Now here's where things start to feel off. Instead of moving down into the forest for shelter, they set up camp on the open slope, fully exposed. No natural protection, no cover from wind, just snow and darkness. From a tactical standpoint, this decision is strange. Some believe it was intentional, a training exercise, a demonstration of endurance. Others think it was a mistake, but either way, this is where everything changed. Sometime during the night, something happened. Not slowly, not gradually, something immediate, something that forced 9 people to act at the same time. Investigators later discovered the tent, collapsed, partially covered in snow. But what stood out immediately? The fabric. It had been cut open. from the inside. Multiple slashes, not random, intentional. This is critical because it tells us something very specific. They didn't leave calmly. They escaped. Fast, urgently, without thinking about consequences. Footprints were found leading away from the tent. And this is where things get even more disturbing. Some of those footprints were barefoot. Others were wearing only socks. Some were partially dressed. No proper gear. No protection. In minus 30-degree conditions. That's not survivable. And yet, they didn't hesitate. They moved nearly a mile away, toward a nearby forest. Now imagine that walk. Freezing air cutting into your skin. Snow hitting your face. Wind pushing you off balance. And still, you keep moving. Because whatever is behind you feels worse. Under a large cedar tree, 2 bodies were found first. Minimal clothing. Signs of a small fire. Burn marks on branches. And something else. Broken limbs high up the tree, which suggests someone climbed. Not casually. Desperately. Trying to see something. Trying to locate something. Or someone. Between the tree and the tent, more bodies were found. Positioned in a way that suggests movement. Toward the tent, as if they tried to go back. As if they realized, too late, that leaving was a fatal mistake. But the final discovery, that's where this case stops making sense. Months later, after the snow began to melt, 4 more bodies were found, buried under layers of ice. These victims had severe internal trauma. Crushed ribs, skull fractures, but almost no external wounds. No cuts, no defensive injuries. One victim was missing her tongue, another had missing eyes, and some of the clothing showed traces of radiation. Now pause. Take a step back. What kind of scenario produces that combination? Panic, disorientation, extreme force injuries, without leaving a clear trace. The official investigation began weeks later. By then, the environment had already changed. Snow had shifted. Evidence had degraded. But even with limitations, the findings raised more questions than answers. There were no signs of another group, no additional footprints, no indication of an external attack. And yet, the injuries, they didn't match natural causes alone. One investigator described the force required as comparable to a high-speed collision, but there were no vehicles, no machinery, just open wilderness. The case was eventually closed, with a vague statement. Cause of death, an unknown compelling force, not an avalanche, not an animal attack. Simply, unknown. Over time, several theories began to form, each one trying to explain what logic couldn't. Theory 1. Avalanche. Some experts suggest a delayed slab avalanche, not large enough to bury everything, but enough to create fear, enough to make them believe they were in danger. This could explain the sudden escape, but there are problems. The slope angle was relatively low. Footprints remained intact. The tent was not deeply buried, which weakens the argument. Theory 2. Military testing. During that period, the Soviet Union conducted secret experiments. Some reports mentioned strange lights in the sky, possibly airborne explosives. Pressure waves from such devices could explain internal injuries. It could explain panic, even radiation traces. But again, no official confirmation. Theory 3. Psychological response. Extreme cold affects cognition. There is a known phenomenon, paradoxical undressing, where victims feel overheated and remove clothing, combined with hypothermia-induced confusion. But this still leaves a gap. What triggered the initial reaction? Why all 9? At the same time, that's the missing piece. And without it, every theory feels incomplete. So let me ask you, if you were inside that tent and something made you cut your way out into certain death, what would it have to be? Even today, the Dyatlov Pass incident remains unsolved. Modern investigations have tried to recreate the event using simulations, using terrain models, using data-driven analysis. Some results support avalanche theories. Others reject them entirely. Because no single explanation fits every detail. And that's what makes this case so powerful. Not just the mystery, but the behavior. Because behavior reveals truth. And in this case, the behavior tells us one thing. They were afraid. Not confused, not careless. Afraid of something real, something immediate. Something that made them choose the impossible. And maybe that's the part we're not ready to accept. Because whatever happened that night, it wasn't just an accident. It was a moment where everything changed. And no one survived to explain it. So here's the question. If you were there, would you stay inside? Or would you run? I will see you in the next investigation.